WNBA. Players stepped onto the court carrying a message that had nothing to do with basketball. And the strongest impact was made by Breanna Stewart. Abolish ICE.
I wanted to kind of have a simple message of, abolish ICE, which means to uplift families and communities instead of, having policies to uplift families and communities instead of fueling fear and violence. I think that, when human lives are at stake, it's bigger than anything else.
That moment went viral fast, and the fans' reactions were immediate. Some of them were delighted, but many were outraged. So it's no wonder the comments started flowing in. Abolish WNBA, or I'm canceling my WNBA subscription could be read frequently. And many demanded to keep politics out of sports. Almost immediately, something else started shifting behind the scenes. WNBA stopped moving. Collective bargaining agreement negotiations slowed, and player leverage quietly started slipping. This wasn't about whether the protest was justified. This was about timing, and timing is everything when money is on the table. Before we get into how this unraveled, remember where the league already was. As you guys probably know, WNBA players were already locked in tense collective bargaining negotiations. The demands were aggressive: revenue sharing tied to gross income, higher max salaries, expanded benefits, travel upgrades, housing guarantees. This was not a routine extension. It was a high-stakes pressure play designed to transform the league.
We know what is on the horizon. We know in 2 years our TV deal is up and there's a new TV deal that's going to come that they're not even putting on the table for us. The percentages, if we actually told you the percentages of what they're giving, that they're sending to us, it would absolutely piss y'all off. So just know when we are standing firm in our feet and 10 toes down, there is a reason, and we will not move until y'all move.
And pressure only works if the other side feels boxed in. That's what made the protest moment risky. Not morally risky, strategically risky, because it didn't happen during an off-season lull. It didn't happen after a deal was signed. It happened while executives were already calculating exactly how far they could bend without triggering backlash. And once the protest went public, the conversation stopped being just about labor. To give you some context, this was not a quiet, abstract statement about justice. Abolish ICE is not reform language or accountability language. It is total removal. That framing matters, especially when you are negotiating with owners who rely on sponsors, media partners, and political neutrality to keep the league stable. The message landed instantly. So did the reaction. Support came from the expected corners: activist circles, progressive fans, players across leagues amplifying the statement. That base was loud and energized. But another reaction was already forming. Casual fans pushed back, not always against immigration reform, but against the framing and timing. Sponsors stayed quiet. Executives said nothing. Satire sites picked it up immediately, signaling backlash had escaped niche corners of the internet. That matters. Satire is not persuasion. It is normalization. Once a controversy becomes mockable, it becomes easier for decision makers to ignore the people at the center. And that is exactly when the power dynamic shifted. Now here's the part most people miss. There is no report saying the league punished players for protesting. No memo, no threat, no warning. They didn't need one. Leverage in negotiations is not about punishment. It's about patience. Before the protest, the pressure was on the league. Ratings were up. Visibility was growing. Players had momentum. Public sympathy was trending in their favor.
So we value feedback, we listen to criticism, we remain committed to engaging in the difficult but necessary conversations that ultimately make us all stronger and better. As it relates to officiating and gameplay on the court,
after the protest, that sympathy fractured. And when sympathy fractures, urgency disappears. That's when comments from Rebecca Lobo landed differently. She wasn't attacking the players, and she wasn't talking about ICE or politics. She was warning about optics, about fan fatigue, and about the danger of letting public goodwill erode during a labor fight.
Use different words, and I'm worried that the players might be getting to a point where they might be losing some of the support from the public.
That warning wasn't random. It was a signal. Executives do not negotiate in a vacuum. They negotiate in public. They watch sentiment. They track engagement. They notice when conversation shifts from pay the players to why are we talking about this right now? And once that shift happens, concessions slow down. So while social media argued about the protest itself, the league stayed silent. No rush, no reassurance, no public alignment with player demands. That silence did more than any statement could. It told players exactly where they stood. This is where the panic narrative begins. Not panic as in fear, panic as in exposure. Players started realizing the protest had created noise at the worst possible time. Not because the message was wrong, but because it diluted the labor message they needed front and center. You could see it in the shift in tone. Less escalation, more careful wording, fewer broad political statements, more emphasis on negotiations again. That is not confidence. That is recalibration. Because once you lose control of the narrative, you stop setting the pace. And when you stop setting the pace, the other side waits you out. Executives benefit from that waiting. They don't have to argue against the protest. They don't have to condemn it. They don't even have to acknowledge it. All they have to do is let outside pressure weaken the coalition pushing them. And that coalition did weaken. Not everyone left, but enough people stopped paying attention. Enough fans tuned out. Enough uncertainty crept in to make aggressive demands harder to justify publicly. Signals were everywhere if you knew where to look. Social media engagement dropped during key posts about salaries. Subtle shifts in narrative tone emerged in interviews. Former players, commentators, and media analysts expressed concern about optics instead of policy. That's when benefit discussions stalled. Again, no headline screamed, NBA slashes benefits because of protest. That's not how influence works. What happens instead is quieter. Negotiation positions harden and timelines stretch. Flexibility disappears. The same proposals that felt urgent weeks ago suddenly feel optional. And players feel that shift immediately. Because when leverage is strong, talks feel active. When leverage slips, talks feel distant. Now everyone's asking why momentum vanished so fast. The protest didn't collapse negotiations, but it complicated them. It added variables at the exact moment clarity mattered most. And executives, who already had reasons to resist sweeping changes, suddenly had less incentive to move quickly. Silence became strategy, and that's the part no one wanted to say out loud. Players didn't lose because they spoke up. They lost because they spoke up while asking for everything at once. That combination is dangerous in a league that still depends on fragile growth and external validation. By the time that reality set in, the damage was already done. Not fatal damage, but enough to change the shape of the fight. Now the league is quiet. The benefits are unresolved. The urgency is gone. Even more subtle pressure emerged from fragmented social commentary. Fans who once cheered every protest suddenly argued about focus and the right moment. Analysts dissected Instagram posts and tweets. Every public action from players was scrutinized under the lens of negotiation leverage. And that scrutiny matters. Because in labor disputes, visibility is currency. Momentum can evaporate in days. What looked like public support becomes a double-edged sword. Even allies became cautious. Cross-league statements were toned down. Media narratives shifted from players demand justice to players risk optics problem. Every headline, every tweet, every story became a variable, and the players knew it. Now everyone is asking, did the protest cost them more than it gained? The answer is complicated. Salaries aren't lower, but leverage, it shifted. And in negotiations where perception equals power, that shift can be fatal. The protest didn't fail. The message still hit, but the timing made it harder to convert moral weight into material gain. Right now, the league watches quietly. The fans are divided. The players adjust messaging, and the benefits still unresolved. So the question isn't whether the protest was right. It's whether speaking out at that exact moment cost them leverage they may never fully recover. And that is the story the numbers, the posts, and the timelines all point to.